The Israeli lawyers for a former school principal accused of child sexual abuse in Melbourne are trying to delay a hearing for her extradition to Australia. In May, a court ruled that Malka Leifer had been faking mental illness to avoid extradition. Now her lawyers are appealing that ruling, which could delay the hearing scheduled for next week. Ms. Leifer is facing 74 charges of child sexual abuse alleged to have taken place when she was headmistress of the Israel Abbas school in the early 2000s. Let's get more on the story from our Middle East correspondent, Tlozek, who joins us out of Jerusalem. And Eric, I guess this appeal was no surprise.
No, that's right, Bev. We always expected that the defence team for Malka Leifer was going to lodge an appeal. Initially, though, we were told that they weren't allowed to do so until the end of the extradition proceeding, and then they could appeal all of it to Israel's Supreme Court. Now, they argue differently. They say they have new evidence to introduce and that the court must delay a hearing scheduled next week on the extradition matter itself. Part of that is the fact that a civil claim was lodged on behalf of Malka Leifer alleging negligent treatment by Israel's prison service. She's currently on remand in an Israeli women's prison. And that suit alleges that because she was given antipsychotic medication, which has serious side effects, she must have been assessed as being mentally ill. While the independent psychiatric panel that came back to the district court, which is hearing the extradition matter, found that she was not incapacitated, that she was mentally competent to face the extradition proceedings. It doesn't mean she's not suffering from a mental illness, just that she's competent to understand the charges against her and the nature of the proceedings against her. So that's where it's currently at. We don't have a date for the appeal before the Supreme Court, and but it is an interesting development at this stage in the proceedings.
Is it likely to stop her eventual extradition?
To date, every matter that Malka Leifer's defence has taken to the Supreme Court, and they've taken a number, has been thrown out. They recently rejected her bail when the district court granted her bail and was going to allow her to go and live with her sister. And the Supreme Court threw that out. They've thrown out previous attempts by her defence team, which has lodged a number of, I suppose you'd say, creative applications to the district court and had some success with them. But every time it's gone further to the Supreme Court, they've rejected it. I don't know what they're going to do with this appeal, obviously. But if you look at the record of matters that have reached the Supreme Court on the Malka Leifer extradition proceedings, all of them have been thrown out. So I know that the supporters of the three alleged victims and the victims themselves, alleged victims themselves, will be hoping that this matter is the same.
Eric, much like Victoria is facing, Israel is in the grip of another wave of coronavirus infections. Where are the main areas of concern now?
So they've started shutting down more cities because of some steeply rising infection rates. Some places they're returning, around 15% positive tests, so seeing really serious case growth. The main areas of concern are Jewish ultra-Orthodox neighbourhoods, which have, really high number, which make up a really high proportion of the positive cases, and the Arab Israeli cities and towns, which are the next highest. And there was concern about public events, particularly in the Arab areas, weddings, where they were known to be, now we know that they look like having been super spreader events. And there was a yeshiva in the ultra-Orthodox areas that has a high number of positive cases. So the authorities are belatedly trying to respond to some of these outbreaks by quarantining whole areas. But there's enormous criticism of what they've done to date. They just introduced new restrictions that close bars and clubs and gyms, and they limit weddings and other public events to 20 people. But, this is after you're getting more than 1,000 new cases a day for more than a week. So it looks like there's widespread community transmission. A number of experts have said that the government has lost control of the outbreak and that they've squandered the time that Israel bought with its harsh lockdown that it introduced in March. It gave them enough time. It suppressed new case growth to just 16 a day in mid-May. So enough time to prepare, but then they didn't implement the serious contact tracing and testing programs that they promised. And now more than 33,000 cases, and as I said, more than 1,000 new ones being discovered every day. So Israel finds itself in a really serious situation, and that's spilled over into the West Bank, occupied militarily by Israel, where there's more than 4,000 cases, and just recently another death, taking the total number there to 24. A very serious situation with the outbreak there too.
Yeah, with such high density. Eric, thank you so much. Good to talk.